I call the Conference Committee on House File 2431 to order. Members of the Conference Committee, members of the public, we are reconvening because we have a second offer from the Senate conferees. And before we dive into that, I just want to share some appreciation because we are all here tonight because we care about transparency, we care about making things as public as possible, and we can't do that without Todd from our streaming services. So we really appreciate him making sure that even for those who aren't here with us, are able to access that. So I want to give a special shout out to Todd. Okay, our plan for tonight is to have a public update and discussion on the Senate's latest offer. But before we get into that, it is a rule of this committee that we are not allowed to meet past midnight without a motion of approval by the committee. So I will make a motion that that this conference committee is allowed to meet 1 hour past midnight. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails, and we will be meeting 1 hour past midnight.
It won't be an hour. It won't be a full hour.
Okay, let's dive into this offer. To get into the spreadsheet for the Senate's second offer, I will turn it over to Ms. Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I am looking at the spreadsheet titled Senate Offer Number 2 in the upper left-hand corner, timestamped 5/16 at 11:35 p.m. in the bottom right-hand corner. In the interest of time, I'm just going to run through the differences between this current Senate offer from Senate Offer Number 1. So starting on line 4, the state grant program, the Senate Offer Number 2 proposes an appropriation of $35,976,000 in the 25 through 27 biennium and $18,310,000 in the 28-29 biennium. On line 5, the Senate proposes a $1 million per biennium increase in the child care grants appropriation. On line 10, the Senate accepts the House offer to maintain the United Family Medicine residency program at the base level of funding. On line 12, the Senate accepts the House offer to maintain the Hennepin Healthcare Graduate Family Medical Education appropriation at the base level of funding. On line 15, the Senate proposes to reduce the appropriation for student teachers in shortage area grants by $500,000 per biennium from base. Similarly, the Senate proposes also to reduce the appropriation for underrepresented student teacher grants on line 16 by $500,000 per biennium from base. On line 17, the Senate accepts the House offer to eliminate ongoing funding for the student loan debt counseling grant program. On line 28, the Senate accepts the House offer to maintain no funding for the College Financing Literacy Act. On line 33, the Senate accepts the House offer to eliminate ongoing funding for the teacher shortage loan repayment program. On line 34, the Senate accepts the House offer to eliminate ongoing, nope, that's not correct, to reduce the appropriation for the Rural Veterinarian Loan Repayment Program by $100,000 per biennium. On line 35, the Senate accepts the House offer to reduce the appropriation for the Agricultural Educators Loan Repayment Program by $10,000 per biennium. On lines 39 and 42, the Senate accepts the House offer to maintain menstrual products access as a separate line item rider in the Minnesota State Colleges and Universities. On line 47, the Senate accepts the House offer to add a subrider for law enforcement for the Workforce Development Scholarship appropriation of $500,000 one time in fiscal year 2027. Moving to the University of Minnesota, the Senate, or on lines 51 and 53, the Senate accepts the House offer to maintain menstrual products access as a separate line item rider. Flipping to the second page on the back, this on line 57, the Senate accepts the House offer to eliminate ongoing funding for economic development research. On line 59, the Senate accepts the House offer to eliminate ongoing funding for the Humphrey Forum. On line 62, the Senate proposes reducing the base appropriation for cannabis research by $2 million per biennium. On line 70, the Senate accepts the House offer to eliminate ongoing funding for the Mayo Clinic family medicine residency programs. Moving down to the state grant parameter changes, the Senate accepts the House offer on line 83 to limit tuition increases to 2% per fiscal year. And the next two items are new items proposed by the Senate that do not currently have cost estimates, but there are plans to request those from the Office of Higher Education, hopefully at some point tomorrow, just given the hour, we don't have them now. But on line 85, the Senate proposes decreasing the living and miscellaneous expense allowance to 109% of federal poverty guidelines. And on line 89, the Senate proposes setting student aid indexes, parental contributions, and student contributions below negative 1350 to negative 1350. That concludes the review of the spreadsheet, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Now for the policy provisions, I'll turn it over to Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to walk through the Article 1 part of this document because everything was touched upon by Ms. Bursch in her walkthrough. So we're turning to page 3 of the chart, Article 2. In the first row, the Senate proposes on the K-12 direct admissions program to include with the A-19 amendment. I don't know, has that been distributed? Okay. Did we? We might have to circle back to the A-19 amendment. I can summarize that it adds an option for school boards to opt out one or more high schools. So it's the same Senate language, but then it adds that option, and we'll make sure to have that circulated. Then I'll summarize also just changes as well. So moving to page 4, the fourth row down on campus sexual misconduct policy, the Senate agrees to take the House language with the inclusion of Senate lines 3319 through 3320 and 3513 through 3515, and those are the provisions that allow either party to request a hearing and which sets a minimum standard of proof at the preponderance of the evidence. Then at the bottom of that page, the Senate proposes to adopt a sort of a blend of the House and Senate original language to provide 10% of competitive grants and 5% of legislatively named grants to be available for admin. That's an up to. Going to the next page, in the middle, Ms. Bursch talked about this, but the Senate proposes to set the floor for negative parental or student contributions to negative 1,350 instead of negative 1,500. And again, also turning to page 6, the top row. This was also discussed in spreadsheet walkthrough, and that is the Senate proposes modifying, setting the living and miscellaneous expenses to 109% of federal poverty guidelines. Going down to the third row, the Senate, going to the second row, the Senate agrees with the House position to include the Senate language except for the 48.18 to 19. The next row down, the Senate proposes to adopt the Senate language to the changes to paragraph A, so maintaining its position, but modifying the language to recognize the change to AFR, that the floor is now negative 1,350. So in the case of a surplus, OHE could recognize below that new floor. Turning to, hold on, I have to see if there are any others. Oh, this concludes the walkthrough.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Watson. Before I open it up to member discussion, I just want to commend you in your conferees, Senator Fateh. You and this latest offer, in my opinion, have shown real movement and real serious in your commitment to closing this bill with bipartisan, bicameral partnership. So I want to commend you for that. Member discussion to the I recognize Vice Chair Coulter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question on the spreadsheet on line 55. That looks like it might be a change, and it's also possible I'm not reading it correctly because it's quite late. I just wanted to follow up on that.
Ms. Birch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Coulter, this Senate offer number 2 maintains the position in Senate offer number 1 to fund the University of Minnesota Mayo Foundation Partnership at 50% of the base level and remove eligibility for the Mayo Foundation.
Vice Chair Coulter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so it is a change as I'm looking at the numbers from, oh, no, I was reading it wrong. It's late. Let's all go home.
No worries. Thank you. Is there any further member discussion or questions before we go to public testimony? Senator Fateh.
Yeah, and I want to thank you all so much, and I want to appreciate Senator Duckworth for helping out a lot, get us closer to the House position. He worked really hard in working and talking with me and engaging with us as well. The A19 amendment, as explained by nonpartisan staff, allows school districts to opt out. So that's one change that we move forward that we thought hopefully you'd accept. And on the sexual misconduct policy, we actually are closer, our members are actually closer to the House position. It's just we have Senate colleagues that feel very strongly about it, and we need to do more work internally in talking with our caucus and bringing it back to them. So that's the work that I have to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Any member discussion? Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to piggyback off of the A19, which has been offered for consideration, given that it's late tonight, this would likely be an answer tomorrow, but I know that there is there's a price tag in the spreadsheet attached with direct admissions. I'd be curious to know if this amendment is adopted, if that impacts that, if not fully eliminating it, maybe reducing it, and that would be helpful for us to know as we're trying to close that gap between the two bills as well. So just put that in the back of our minds for future information that might be helpful. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Senator Duckworth. Ms. Birch, if you'd like to take a stab at that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Senate offer includes an increase for direct admissions Minnesota of $500,000 per biennium, whether the ability, and that matches the amount that was provided in the fiscal note completed by the Office of Higher Education to implement direct admissions for all public and charter high schools by the 2029-2030 school year. I am not certain how allowing schools to opt out will change that cost estimate, so that's something that we would have to work with the Office of Higher Education to understand further.
Thank you. Anything further, Senator Duckworth? No. All right. Any other member questions or discussion? All right. Is there anyone from the public who would like to testify on this offer?
Everyone's too tired.
All right. Oh, I thought maybe Bernie was sleeping over there, but no, it looks like he's still up. All right. Okay, well, if there's no one from the public who would like to testify, are there any closing remarks from our members? I recognize Co-Chair Rarick.
So just a quick question. So it seems very persistent that the summer academic enrichment program, which the governor had cut, not only did you added money to it, but it's been in every offer, and I'm just wondering, what's the deal with this program?
Senator Fateh.
No, I appreciate that question. It was a Senator Dzik bill, so people were really wanted to keep it in. It was a Senator Dzik bill, Kerry Dzik. Yeah, so it was important to members to keep it.
Chair Rarick, anything further? All right. Well, with that, before we adjourn for the day, I just want to thank all the members of the conference committee. It's been a long day. There's been a lot of good conversation, and I'm so proud that we've been able to come together, have this open forum discussion. I'd like to thank all those who are in the audience tonight for your participation in this process as well. It really is going to be a team effort in putting together this bill. If there is well, before I adjourn too, I just want to let folks know that we are expecting to come in as House conferees tomorrow morning and review this offer, and I believe, actually, Mr. Chair, I'll leave it to you. You've got the gavel. If you could just let folks know when we can expect to come back in tomorrow.
6 a.m.
Out of order.
We'll be in 11:45 tomorrow morning.
Okay, so did you have a question?
11:45. 11:45.
Yes, so when we adjourn tonight, we will reconvene at 11:45 a.m. Tomorrow, Saturday, May 18th, 2025.
May 17th.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It is May 17th today. Okay, sorry, May 17th. Okay, there being no further business before the committee, we are adjourned.